This is a song about a strong girl.
Hello and welcome to the channel, and as you can see, Heidi Haibike is back. She's been rest up, demanding stuff like GT85 soup, hot baths, and we won't talk about the lube. Heidi is back. She's back on the road, but because we love her so much, we've decided that we're going to do a few little upgrades, and that's what we're going to look at today. But we're also going to talk about what the issue was, how I fixed it, and ultimately, how much did it cost me. Oh, it's good to have you back, Heidi. Good to have you back. Before I get into the whole shenanigans of what actually was the problem, I just wanted to give a massive shout out to everybody out there on social media, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, even on Instagram, of people offering me supportive comments and feedback, asking about the bike, how it was and how frustrating it must be. But there have been several people who have been integral into me actually getting the bike fixed, and more importantly getting the actual parts that I needed, because as many of you know, I don't really know one end of a spanner from other. I once tried to screw some shelves into a brick wall by putting a screw straight in. But we learn from our mistakes, as you know, here on the channel. So these people on screen now have been absolutely fantastic, reaching out to me, having conversations with them, video chats, you name it. And even the bike shops as well, the mechanics down there, really helpful with getting this sorted, and the place I actually bought the bike from have been brilliant. We can't let this all go without thanking Haibike as well, because although it's taken a long time in order to get this issue fixed, you've got to remember with coronavirus, there's lots of limitations on parts and logistics and everything else that goes with it. So hats off to them as well for the solution. So we'll dive in now and have a look. And I think some of you were right, some of you weren't. I'll put the poll on screen of what the majority of you thought was the problem with the bike. So grab yourself a cup of tea, preferably a cup of Yorkshire tea, and I shall tell you all about Heidi and how we upgraded this beauty to make her even better.
The bike first started to get some issues with a weird zip tie sound. If you imagine clipping it and then pulling it, that was the sound I got when I was riding up at Grassington.
Bike's gonna have to go in and be looked at. It's making so many strange noises.
The bike still pulled, the motor still worked, but there was a horrible screeching noise every now and then, and there seemed to be a bit of resistance when I was pedalling. Now, I was given some advice by somebody at a unknown bike shop who said, what you want to do is go back out on a second ride and see whether you still get the issue, and if you do, then we'll know and we'll have a look at it. I was also told that due to the bike creaking, it was down to having a carbon frame, and it was just something that you had to live with. Well, both those things were wrong. The day after, I decided to go up to Hebden Bridge, to the amazing location that's got, well, it's got everything. And this is when things started to get really bad. Heidi Haibike sounded like she needed to be put down, with screeching, screaming, scraping. It just sounded absolutely terrible. And as many of you assumed, as I did, that it was the motor, and many of you commented that it was because I was riding it too hard, or because I got the motor wet. Well, as I've said before, it's an all-mountain 7. I should be able to get this up a mountain, throw it off a mountain, into a river, go swimming with Heidi, naked, butt naked, get back on her, and ride her all day long. That just sounds wrong, but do you know what I mean? As many of you know, I was told that it could be 7 months in order for Haibike to get me a new motor if, air quotes, it was the actual motor. Well, from speaking to my bike shop where I actually bought the Haibike, this is in fact wrong. If it was the worst case, the absolute worst case scenario, the maximum it would have been or could have been was 3 months. So that is absolutely false information I was given, and if you followed that from one of my videos, I apologise, but that was the information that I was given at the time. With the screeching and screaming getting worse and worse and worse, and even dogs and people would go running in the woods when they hear me coming down the trail, sounded like a screaming banshee. I decided that instead of trying to get into the bike shops who told me it would be 2 months because they were so backlogged, I would take it to a friend of mine, Steve, who's a mechanical engineer, and he would have a look at the bike. Now, as I've mentioned, if we put the main screeching aside, the bike used to creak and groan and make these weird, strange noises. Well, he'd only had the bike about 30 seconds and knew instantly what it was. It was the back wheel was literally on too tight. I'd tightened it up so tight that it was almost crushing the wheel. So make sure that you put that handle only at hand tight strength.
That's come off. What is it? That's a nut. Threads have gone. Completely disintegrated that. Completely gone. That's never been tightened up right. Otherwise it shouldn't have come undone. You have a tool for that. It's like a star socket that goes inside there. You see these splines?
Yep.
It's a socket that goes into there, and you tighten it all up and it holds all these cassettes together. Well, if that's not tightened up right, it can come loose. And it's completely destroyed the nut. Yeah. You can see the threads inside, the internal threads in this part here, this freewheel hub here.
Yeah.
Right. That, you can see the threads that have used to be there on that actually screw into that to hold all the cassette together. But everything's been destroyed.
So is it the free hub or the actual hub?
It's the freewheel part, it's the free hub part of it, but whether you can get these separate, I don't know. That's what it should look like. See with the threads. See? Them's your pawls, them's your little ratchet pawls, yeah?
Yeah.
That run on that ratchet ring there.
Which looks absolutely...
Which is completely covered in shade. Bearing.
Where?
There, what I'm turning. That's a bearing. Look at the state of the shaft.
That's what we're missing here.
Yeah.
That's a mess, isn't it?
That's completely destroyed. So what bits you can get for that, I do not know. You might be a complete new wheel for all you know, because your rub's knackered, your rim's knackered, and you might not be getting any bits for this. I don't know.
So if you actually look in there, if we can see very well, I put my finger, it's full of metal filings and just absolutely shredded. So the sound, we think, was metal on metal scraping. So yeah, there for the bin.
You quickly realised it wasn't the motor, but it was actually coming from the rear wheel. And in fact, on inspection, it turned out to be the rear hub and the rear free wheel hub that were both completely destroyed, with metal filings, and everything inside was absolutely thrashed to pieces, and all the threads in there were absolutely gone and worn away. As you know, as I've mentioned on my Orbea video, the process worked like this. I would speak to my local bike shop, who would then speak to Raleigh, who would then speak to Haibike, would think about it, who would speak to Raleigh, who would speak to the bike shop, would come back to me and say, can you get that boot slab to give us some more info? And round and round and roundabout we went, but I won't bore you with the entire process of how it went back and forth. Originally, there was talk of them just sending me a new hub, but I refused because that means I would have to have a wheel rebuilt. And that's not something I wanted. And in the end, Haibike said, God, this guy's famous. Look at him. He's just shy of 1.5 thousand subs. I'm joking. In the end, Haibike came through and they sent me an entirely new wheel. And it's only been, 2-3 weeks. And I thought that was a little bit unacceptable. But with coronavirus and everything else, a few of you out there on the social media sites have said that you've been waiting even longer for different parts. So I think I've been very, very lucky in getting that wheel sent within 3 weeks. While all this was going on, I was worried that if Haibike came back and said, you know what, we're not going to fix this for you and blah, 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 that I would be left without a bike. Been trying to get hold of a wheel for a long time. So in the meantime, I decided, I love Heidi so much. She's a good girl and she's trekked me well over these last 500 or so miles, that I decided to invest and upgrade a few little bits here and there, and that's exactly what I did. But I will do a separate video where we'll go in depth on why I chose those parts and how does it feel and how does it affect the bike. But on screen, you'll see the parts I've put on, and all I'll say quickly at this point is she feels a lot better.
And so that brings us to the end of the video. I'd just like to thank you all again so much, all the subscribers, the people on Instagram, Facebook, you name it, people who got in touch, not only asking me about the bike, but giving me advice on what pieces of kit I need, how to fix it, have you tried this, have you tried that, because obviously we had problems with the chain, it was a link too short, battery hanger was slightly bent, derailleur was bent, which was the issue with the gears. Regarding the tubeless back tyre that wouldn't seal, all I needed to do, based on your advice, was stick it on the bike stand, whiz it round as fast as I could for 30 seconds, and lo and behold, it stayed back up. It's terrible for all the people out there who have an issue with the bike and you're down and out for a couple of weeks. I literally don't know what to do with myself now without the bike, but I tell you what, I'm going to be getting a Pro 4 hub on that front wheel when I can afford it. It just feels so much better, but we'll look at that in another video. So thank you all very much, every single one of you who's helped me over the last 2 to 3 weeks. My life has been completely different without Heidi. When you lose your girl, it's a terrible thing. I shall see you in another video coming real soon where we'll talk about the Pro 4 hub and how it feels with all the extra little gubbins on there. But so far, I'm a very, very happy man. Got to go back out on the bike on my birthday, and you can't wish for more than that, can you? See you in another video coming real soon. Bye-bye. Come here, Heidi. I'm going to give you what for.